So we are going to get started. Greetings. My name is Matt Wilson, and I direct the Community Grants Reinvestment Fund. And we are very excited to welcome you all to the Community Grants Reinvestment Fund, and congratulations, of course, on your award. This is really meant to be a sort of high-level overview of a few of the requirements throughout the life cycle of the grant. And we hope to cover this agenda. So we are going to start with some introductions and some rapid surveys. And then we are going to cover just some very high-level basic information that you can find on your contract, requesting an advance payment, two types of reporting that we will be doing, both your progress and financial reporting, as well as some data reporting requirements. We'll kind of cover what's coming next with dates and deadlines, and then contacts and where you can send questions to us. And then we will end with Q&A. Of course, there are a lot of you on the call, so it may not be possible for us to address or answer all of your questions. But feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will sort of do our best to try to monitor it throughout the presentation today. And we are going to be developing a frequently asked questions sort of document where we can try to respond to a lot of questions. So your questions are very helpful. They're very welcome. It lets us know what information we need to clarify and get that out to you. I also want to just let you know now, and we will cover it again on a later slide, that this time next week, same time, same virtual place, we will send out a new link. We are going to be joined by our colleagues from ITS who oversee the eGrants system. We know that a lot of you have been sending us some questions about operating inside of eGrants. So we are going to do a walkthrough of eGrants. And in particular, we will focus on how you can sort of keep your contact information and roles up to date, and then how you submit a progress report and how you submit a financial report, which are the two main functions that you will be performing in eGrants going forward. So now we are on to intros and quick surveys, and I'm going to briefly stop sharing to cover this part. So as I mentioned, I am Matt Wilson. I have been in New York State Service for about 1 year now. Prior to this, I was with a private philanthropy for about 16 years, where I was doing different types of grant making. So I am very familiar in general with sort of working with nonprofits and making grants and supporting organizations, but I will admit working inside the state system is quite new to me. And of course, there are a lot of rules and regulations that we have to meet in order to be compliant. But we are doing our best to try to streamline that and minimize it where we can. The advantage of being a new program is that we don't actually have a long history of how we have done this in the past. And sometimes I think with state agencies, they have a way of operating, and over time it can build and become more complicated. So we don't have that, which is good. But a challenge for us, of course, is that it's new and we don't have any of those things. So we are frequently confronting issues and questions and scenarios that we don't have immediate answers for. So I do ask for some patience and understanding as we build this program together. I am joined by two of my colleagues, Meredith Dowen and Danielle Marshall. There's one other colleague of ours who you will interact with. His name is AJ Battaglia. AJ is currently on parental leave. He just had a son, but will be back with us in a few weeks. So with that, I'm going to pass to Meredith briefly for an introduction.
Hi, I'm Meredith Allen. I have about 5, 6 years of grant management experience with the state. I also have a background in working at nonprofits as well as within different healthcare systems. So I bring that experience, and I'm going to be working with about half of the grant awards, but am always open to help and help you along in this process any way that I can. And I'll pass it over to Danielle.
Hello, everyone. My name's Danielle Marshall. I have a background in administration and healthcare. I'll be helping administer some of your grants, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Right. So we wanted to start with just a couple surveys so we could figure out sort of what's the experience level in the room and some of the things we might expect going forward. So I am going to introduce the first poll. We want to know how many people on this call have any experience working on or having received a New York State grant. There are a lot of different agencies across New York State that issue grants. So maybe you have worked on a grant from OMH or DOH or DOL or some other entity. So we just kind of want to get a sense how many of you have experience on state grants. So if you could take a minute.
Matt, I see some hands raised, so I just wanted to throw in there. If the poll didn't pop up for you, you can put your answer in the chat. I think we could record it that way.
Yeah, maybe the poll popped up in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, you should be able to find the chat, the poll in the chat as well. All right, so it's edging back the other way, but it's looking about like 90% of the group has somehow worked with state grants in the past. That is good news in terms of, yeah, familiarity with systems. And because it's such a high level, we would actually, this feature isn't available yet in your version teams we're working on. Okay. See that, Carrie? No worries. This is just a light touch thing. So for those of you who do have a lot of experience working on state grants, we are always open to sort of your feedback and suggestions about how we can navigate these processes better. So if you're familiar with practices that have worked in the past, or you have recommendations for how things could work better that you see coming out from us, we want this to be a two-way street, and we would welcome any of that feedback. Next poll coming out, if I can find it, is about advance payments. So, here we go. Is that going to work? We kind of want to get a sense how many of you have already or really plan to request an advance payment. That is something we are going to cover in the orientation today. But we sent out in our welcome email the process to request that advance payment. So curious how many people anticipate asking. Great. Early results suggest about 70%. Awesome. That is good for us to just be aware so we can be prepped for that. And again, that is something we will cover. Just two more questions from us. As I think you've probably gathered at this point, we will be using the same online system that we used to receive applications. We call it eGrants. And now that we are live and active in our grants, you will continue to use that system to file your progress reports and your financial reports. So we just kind of want to get a temperature feel of how comfortable people are feeling using eGrants. We know some of you maybe had a very active role in submitting the application, so you used eGrants a lot. Some of you have maybe never logged in before at all. So yeah, this is just to take a temperature. Oh, and I see I used the old one. The I feel nothing means, yeah, you're neither comfortable nor uncomfortable. Um, yeah. Okay, good. So look, it's about a quarter of people feel like they've had no experience whatsoever. Half are feeling somewhat comfortable, and then a little bit of distribution around. So good. So again, we will be offering next Thursday an orientation to eGrants. So we hope you might be available to join then. We will be recording that session as well, so we can make it available for those who are not able to join. And just like this, we're recording this session, and we'll make it available to everyone. And last quiz, which is absolutely the most important at this time of year. If it's gonna come live, is what is your favorite Halloween candy? And being that we're OCM, we included gummies, but kid safe version of gummies. All right, chocolate's the clear winner. 20% are like me, whatever you can steal from your kids. Surprise candy corn coming in there at 10%. All right, cool. Thank you all for humoring us. So now back to the presentation. And we will start with some contract basics. So at this point, pretty much everyone should have received an executed contract. In fact, 49 out of 50 have executed contracts. We have gotten some questions around where can you find the executed contract. We have uploaded all of the contracts into eGrants. So if you log into eGrants, you should be able to navigate to it there and find it. Of course, the contract contains all the key information, requirements, expectations, standards at sort of a contractual level of the grant. You can always go there to figure out what is and isn't allowed. And if you ever have any questions, by all means, reach out to us. We're happy to discuss it with you. You will also be aware that as you submit different documents to us or to invoicing, or you will be asked for various numbers, your contract number, your vendor ID number. All of this can be found on the face page of that contract. So if you are ever unsure of what number we are asking for, a first place to look is at the face page. If you still can't find it, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help you locate any of those sort of technical things. The contract term started backdated on April 1st and runs through the 31st of March 2027. So this is the period of time in which eligible expenses can occur. And we've already had a number of questions if you are allowed to reimburse back for expenses to April 1. And the answer is yes. While we are late in issuing the contract, if you have an eligible expense that occurred after April 1 and you want to claim reimbursement for that in this grant, you are most welcome to do so. And the appropriate time to do that is actually in the first reporting period, which we will be covering. The other just important part of the contract to be aware of is attachment D. That really goes over the payment and reporting schedule. That schedule is also reflected in some of the functionality that you will utilize in eGrants in terms of progress reports and financial reports. The timing and the periods covered by those reports in eGrants align to the schedule in attachment D. So if you have questions, when are things due, you can look there. And we have updated the first due date as we'll cover in a minute. I think that's it for me. I think this is over to Danielle.
Hello. Okay, so advance payments. All grantees may request an initial advance payment of $25,000. To request an advance payment, you're going to use the advance payment claim form shown here. A copy is attached in the welcome email. If you plan on requesting an advance, you should do so by November 15th before submitting your first reimbursement. On the form, you're going to want to include your organization name, address, and vendor ID. You also need to add a date and wet signature. And once you have all that completed, you should email the form to communitygrants@ocm.newyork.gov. And the subject line in that email is going to be the last 5 of your eGrants ID, which is also the last 5 of your application number, followed by advance payment request. And we have an example there for you. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. If you do request an advance payment, OCM will recoup 20% of each claim for payment amount until the advance is recovered. This is outlined in Attachment D, Section E. And finally, we have an example here for you. If your total claim for payment from the first reporting period is $22,456, to calculate the recoupment, you'll take that number and you'll multiply it by the 20% or 0.2, which will give you $4,491.20. Then that'll be the recoupment amount for that period. And then to calculate the total to be paid, you'll again take that total claim for payment from your first reporting period. You'll minus the $4,491.20, which is the recoupment amount, and that will give you a total to be paid of $17,754.80. And to determine your remaining advance balance to be recouped, you'll take that advance payment amount of $25,000. You'll minus the recoupment of $4,491.20, and that will give you a remaining advance balance of $20,508.80. And I will pass this on to Meredith to go over the reporting slides.
Hi, everyone. So we've gotten a lot of questions about reporting because I know the original report due date is, tomorrow. So we have graciously extended that until November 21st, so that everyone has plenty of time to get those reports in. So the slide decks on how to submit progress and financial reports were provided in the welcome email. And so those go step by step on how to submit those within eGrants. And as Matt explained, next week, our colleagues in ITS will be providing a walkthrough so that you can have a more personal guidance on how to exactly do that right through eGrants for you. The most important thing to do at this point is to get logged into eGrants to make sure that you have those roles lined up. Again, reach out to grants management at its.ny.gov with any questions that you have, any concerns with accessing or navigating this. That's going to be the most important step to start. The second to that is that if there's been any changes to your project, your work plan, or your budget from what you submitted with your application, because that got rolled right into your contract, we need you to reach out and discuss those with us, because that can delay us reviewing and approving those progress and financial reports. Next slide, please. So progress reports, those are going to be completed within the eGrant system. They're going to be due quarterly. As you might have noticed in attachment D, we did combine the first 2 quarters just to allow for the timeline that we're currently on. Again, they're going to be due on 11/21. Carrie, I see your question. We will get to that a little bit later. So they'll be due 11/21. And the reporting period is from April 1st through September 30th. And again, due 11/21. So the timeline is as this. So the progress report does need to be started in eGrants before the financial report is able to be started. The progress report does need to be approved before the financial report is able to be submitted. So please keep that timeline in mind while you're completing your progress and financial reports. The progress reports are the intention behind them is to provide updates on the progress of your overall project, any barriers or challenges that you're encountering while you're providing the services, and any changes that you're incurring while you're completing your project as it was outlined in your project description and your work plan. There'll also be an availability to include progress made towards your work plan goals, tasks, and performance measures. Those are part of what's in your contract and what we'll be kind of looking at to see that you're providing the services that that you said that you were going to do in your application, and just to ensure that you're kind of staying on track. With the understanding that things may be a little bit behind, we're going to give you a little grace in this first reporting period. Next slide. For the financial reports, they're also going to be completed within the eGrant system. As I said, I'm just going to reiterate that the financial report cannot be initiated until that progress report is started, and it cannot be submitted until that first progress report is approved. And that remains the same for each following quarter, for each following reporting period. Financial reports will also be due quarterly after the first reporting period. And the financial reports is an accounting of all expenditures that happened within that reporting period. And we will need supporting documentation for each expense that's incurred. And there's also an area for a brief narrative that we expect justification and just a narrative of how those expenses were used to support the program. And
back to me, right, Dan?
Back to you, Matt.
Okay, cool. So one other component of reporting is that we do want to collect data, some sort of basic participant numbers and demographic data on participants in your program. You are welcome to report on this in your narrative reports, and some of the questions sort of prompt you to discuss how many events have you had, how many people have participated in that sort of thing. But we also want to collect this data in a structured format. And we plan to collect this data twice throughout the life cycle of the grant. So We will send around an electronic survey around April of next year, which is the midpoint, and then again in April of 2027 at the end of the grant. It will be an online, sort of like a form stack survey tool where you will plug in data. But of course, you need to be collecting that on participants in the program. So you'll be able to report on it. And we will be providing you in the next week or so with the type of data that we would like you to collect on your participants. Those basic data fields are there on your right. So it's how many unique participants have you had? What's their age, race, ethnicity, gender identity, languages, some socioeconomic and justice indicators. We know that because of the timeline, if you've already gotten started on some of your projects and maybe you didn't have the opportunity to collect all this data, that's okay. We will want you to collect it going forward, but none of these fields are going to be required in the sense that, like, if you don't get it, there's some problem. So we will ask you to just report on what you have, and we will ask you to make an effort to get this data, but you don't need to, go way out of your way to recreate data if you've already completed some of your project activities. So more information on this will be coming soon. And what's next? I think this is you, Meredith.
Next slide. So some upcoming dates and deadlines. As Danielle went over, the advanced payment request, we ask that you submit it by the 15th, as it doesn't require the financial report to go along with it. And it's just the claim for payment form emailed to us. We ask that you submit it by the 15th, as it also needs to be submitted before your first reimbursement claim. The instructions for submitting the advanced payment request were also included in that welcome email, and we can send that out again if you need that. I saw that there was a question in the chat about that. Again, to reiterate, the quarterly reporting is due 11/21. That's the progress and financial reports with the reporting period of April 1st through September 30th. And then just to clarify again, as Matt stated, those eligible expenses can go back to April 1st of this year with the supporting documentation and those narratives to justify the cost and loop it back to how those costs supported the program. And thirdly, the eGrants walkthrough next Thursday, 11/6 from 2 to 3 p.m. We do intend to record it, and we'll have an invitation to that meeting sent out after this today's meeting. Next slide. And I think this is back to you, Matt.
Oh, yep. So in general, if you have questions or you're unsure who to write, the community grants inbox that is displayed there is the single place you can always write. And yeah, we get those emails. We're navigating them on our side to make sure they get directed to the right person. And then sometimes, like with advance payments, we ask that you send all of that to the community grants inbox so that we can manage it. But we also want every grantee to have a person, a real contact here at the office. And we have sort of divided the grants. So there's 50 total grants. 25 of you, your point person will be Meredith. And for 25 of you, your point people will be AJ and Danielle. Again, AJ is right now on parental leave for a couple more weeks. So Danielle is really stepping up into that role. We are planning to make some additional hires in the coming months. So eventually there could be more of us, but AJ and Meredith, are really the sort of core team, with Danielle doing a lot of help across. So following this call, you will receive a welcome email either from Meredith or Danielle identifying themselves as your primary point of contact. And again, you're always welcome to write the community grants inbox, but for very project specific things, or you need to make an adjustment on your budget, ultimately that question will get routed to your grant manager. So you're welcome to write Meredith or AJ and Danielle directly. You really can't get it wrong. So even if you write the other person, we will share it around, but we just want everyone to feel like they have a person, there's someone who's responsible for their relationship with OCM. And so we will be sending those welcome messages out soon. And I think that's it. So now I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and see if there are any questions. Meredith, I think you were looking at the chat, so if there's any there.
There were a couple that came up. The first was, how do we find our grant manager? We addressed that one. Vinchetta addressed our mathematical errors in that one slide, which, and we apologize for that. We were kind of burning the midnight oil on our slide. So we apologize for that, and we will do our best to maintain more diligence on our math going forward. The advance for payment, the instructions for submitting the advance, again, they were in the welcome email. If you need another copy of that, please reach out to the community grants inbox and we can get those out to you. Jessica Soul has a question about, she says, as a federally funded community health center, gender identity is something that's against the executive orders for them to collect for patients. Can you advise how to address this conflict in the data collection requirements?
No problem. Don't collect it. Yep. That is easy. From our side, it's not a hard requirement. And so if you're in such a situation, then simply don't collect it. That's okay. Again, each of those fields is not going to be, participant numbers will be required just so we have a sense of how many people are being served by this support. But some of those other indicators will not necessarily be required. And if you're in a difficult situation like that, simply don't collect it. That's okay.
That is exactly what I was going to say. And then on the data report, I would see if we can possibly put a way to put like not able to report or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Next is, are there any specific press release related materials or language we'll receive to be able to share with our own announcements?
Yeah, so this is a great question. The short answer is no, but the longer answer is you're absolutely welcome and encouraged to make any announcements that you would like. We did collect photographs from the Bronx press release, and I see the next question. What we ask is that before you make an announcement, just send it to us so we can give it a quick review. If you would like a statement from us, we are happy to provide a quote for any press announcements that you have. But just reach out to us so we can review that in advance. We know that those things are timely, so we will try to get you a response very quickly. And if there's particular materials or language you're looking for, just write us and let us know. And we're happy to try to get you that. Overall, I thought the Bronx press release went amazing. It was wonderful to see and meet so many of the grantees who were around. And we had a number of really excellent comments from 3 of the awardees in particular. I think that is up online now. So if you're interested to watch it, you most certainly can.
Okay. Next question is, what if we didn't have any expenses until September 30th? What should we do in terms of progress in financial reports? I can answer in terms of the progress report. I would submit that and try to just give us a little background on any work or forethought that was being put in towards the project. In terms of the financial report, I would ask that question during your walkthrough next week with eGrants to ensure that it's able to be processed through the system with those null categories in the financial report. From our perspective, if you don't have any expenses, we don't want you submitting expenses. We understand that there's been a delay, and if you weren't comfortable operating at risk, we wouldn't expect you to have to do that.
But I do think, Meredith, because the reports are sequential, they will need to submit at least any grants, they will need to submit the first quarter reports, even if everything's zeroed out, right?
Correct. And I'm just trying to defer to ensure how to do that in eGrants with the financial report, correct?
Yeah. Cool.
The next one is we have the reporting. Sorry,
I'm assuming that's a question about this recording. I don't know yet. And my guess is the file is going to be too large to send out by email. So we will figure out where we can post it online to give you access to it. Yep.
The next one is, as the progress report must be completed and approved before the financial report, what do we think the timelines will be on reviewing and approving the progress reports for submission on 11/21? Will email notifications go out once the report is approved? We are going to do our best and most diligent to get the progress reports approved as they come in. There is a notification system within eGrants that once they're approved within the system, you are notified and get an email once those reports are approved. So we will do our best. And there is the due date. But again, we are giving grace because we know that there is a delay. So we are going to do our best, and we just ask the same of you, is my answer on that, Matt.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the sooner you can get your progress report into us, the better. As Meredith said, we are going to try to review them on a rolling basis. I can imagine if quite a few come in at once, it could take us a couple days to get through them all. So yeah, try to get your progress report in as soon as possible, so that way you have as much time as you can to get the financial report in. And look, we want to keep to deadlines because it's important just for timely administration. But we're not trying to be crazy about the deadline. So we understand that if you don't get the progress report in until the 20th or 21st, it might be a couple days after that. So we will work with you. But yeah, do your best to get it in early.
Lindsay, I see your question. I'm not skipping you. I think we're going to need some follow-up on the MWBE question.
Mm-hmm.
So we will get back to you on that. Carrie had a follow-up on if we don't have any expenses until 9/30, would you need a budget modification? For budget modifications, I think it would depend on whether there's a significant change in your expenses. So I'm not comfortable issuing a blanket statement on that. I think it would be a case-by-case basis.
I'm also seeing this question. We have intended MWBE spend for outreach advertising with the paper for the African American community. Does OCM need to review outreach ad materials? I think in this instance, it sounds like if I'm understanding, the outreach is to promote the activities of the grant. And in that instance, no, we don't need to see it. But if for some reason the outreach involves, communicating about the Community Grants Reinvestment Fund or something with OCM, then then yes, we would like to see it in advance. But yeah, if you're just promoting, say, the service you're providing in the course of doing the work, and it doesn't say anything about OCM or it doesn't say anything about this particular grant, and it's just you doing your grant activities, we don't need to see that. Yeah. Now, let me also say though, if you're publishing a paper, that's I can't quite understand this part of the question, but like if you're actually publishing a report or that sort of thing, the contract does require that we review it in advance of publication. So if you're planning to publish something, then yes, give us notice. So kind of depends on what the situation is there.
If you don't mind me coming off mute, it was my question. So that
Please.
was one of the things that New York State said, please do MWBE spend with your outreach dollars. Like they told us use that category. So we said, great. And we have a community newspaper that's a registered MWBE, focuses on the African-American community. So we just want to run some PSA style ads that say, hey, new services, here's how you get in touch, here's what we're offering. And I directed our marketing department, because our federal grants require us to put that this project is funded by. Now, we're all still in design and approval mode. None of that's gone to print yet. So between kind of getting pushed from the contract system to get my MWE spend underway, but also not being sure about if and how you all wanted to be acknowledged, those are my questions. It's not us putting out a publication. It's we're trying to use a niche publication to reach our intended audience. And I didn't see in the contract like something specific that said how to acknowledge you all in the ads or the PSAs.
Yep. There is it A1 or A2? There is an attachment there where we communicate how to acknowledge this support, but it's quite long. And so if it is, and I think that's more intent if someone is like publishing a report. This sounds like it's an ad. Lindsay, why don't you just email us a draft copy? We'll take a look. We always have the right from our side to say, nope, you don't need to put anything for us. So let's just take a look at the context. I don't want to junk up your ad with some acknowledgement of us that's not actually adding anything to the work you're doing. So yeah, just send it in. We'll take a look. Yeah.
All right, the next question is, I don't see a contract on my dashboard when I log in, so I just want to flag that. It's from Lucas. I would just advise you to attend the eGrants walkthrough next week if you're able to. I'm sure our colleagues in ITS will show you how to access your contract as well as everything else and all the capabilities within eGrants at that point, and show you exactly where you can navigate to find your contract within eGrants. Let's see. Next. If we have our activities in our work plan that occurred before April 1st, 2025, even we can't get reimbursed for expenses or expect to report on those in our first progress report. My gut is there's not an expectation that you have to, but more detail is always better. If it contributes to the overall success of your project, it would be great, but there's no expectation that you need to report on anything prior to the start of your grant contract.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if it's helpful to give us those details so we have the context and can better understand what you are reporting on in the terms of our sort of contract timeline, go ahead and provide it. But yeah, there's not an expectation there. Another MWBE, our MWBE contractor compliance would do for this grant. I think that's another question we need to follow up on. Is that right, Meredith?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, let us follow up on that. I get the sense that you're getting emails from some of our colleagues in the Office of General Services that we may not have full visibility into. So let's take those questions back and follow up.
And I think there's another, I don't know if this is a duplicate question. If you don't have another question about any program activities to report and no expenditures report, you would still have to, you would need to submit a progress report and a fiscal report for the first reporting period to be able to submit for the second reporting period. So that would be a great question to ask during the eGrants walkthrough next week to identify how to navigate that situation. If you didn't start your program until now, that would be a great question for our ITS colleagues for next week.
Yeah.
Because go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, my basic answer is you do still need to submit a report because again, the way they sequentially work. But if you have not started any activities and there are no expenditures, I think you should feel free to just provide a very brief explanation in the text fields. I do think all the text fields are required. So, maybe in the very first one, you can just explain that the activities haven't started. You plan to start, on this date, or here's how things are going. And then in all the other fields, you can just say not applicable or no update. But you will need to submit it in order for the reports to sort of function the way the system is designed and built.
Yeah, or even, to piggyback off of that, or even provide an explanation as to why. It could even be just the delay in contract execution. If we can't do a budget modification, do we lose the funds from April to September? Carrie, feel free to reach out to us to discuss your specific situation if you like, only because I don't want to take up the time with this questions that may be specific to your situation. But again, if there's any specific, if there's any changes or anything that have happened to the project scope or budget or work plan, then you would want to contact your grant manager to discuss them.
And if I'm understanding the question, it almost sounds like, Carrie, and feel free to come off mute if you want to discuss. The funds are not time bound, meaning if you don't have any expenses in April to September, there isn't any allotment of the money that had to be spent during that time period. So it's fine, right? And we have received this question before, does the $100,000 have to be spent out in any particular time frame? And the only time frame is within the contract term. So in theory, if you had $100,000 worth of eligible expenses right in your very first claim for payment, if all of those expenses checked out, there's nothing that would prevent you from requesting the full claim in the very first claim period. Similarly, that could happen at the very end as well. Obviously, I think both of those scenarios, we would want to try to understand why it's happening in that way. But if there's a good explanation for it, we're open to it.
Okay, we couldn't dedicate certain funding on a tentative agreement, right? So, but we're a smaller organization. We were doing some work, some that was in, but I wasn't sure if I should just disregard that. And then, but I think you've answered my question, and I'll address it with our manager, not to take up more time.
Look, if you have expenses that are related to this grant and are eligible between April and September, by all means claim on them. If you don't have any expenses between April and September, no worries. You might the next claim period. That's fine. You don't lose any money if you don't make a financial claim in this first period.
Okay, and then that just would mean then the funds would be used at another period, right? That might require, however, some modification because we carefully plotted out what we were going to use it for. So you have that contract and that schedule. So I'm assuming we would just have to do some kind of modification then.
Yeah, why don't shoot us
Okay.
message either sort of explaining the scenario, or we can set up a time to talk. If a budget modification, if the only change is timeline, a budget modification may not be necessary. A budget modification becomes necessary when the amount budgeted in a given line item is shifted to another line item above 10%. So if you're moving money between line items, then we may need to do a budget modification. If it's really in, let's say, your spend rate over time, if the budget amounts are still within the original, budget, I don't think a modification would be necessary. I see this last question. When is the e-grants walkthrough? Next week, next Thursday at 2 p.m. And we will be sending out an invite to the same email list that we sent this invite to for the e-grants walkthrough. And that will be led by our colleagues at ITS, who are really best placed to sort of advise how to function in the system, what challenges you might face, little shortcuts that they know of. So it'll be next week, this time, and it will be recorded, and we will figure out how to make that available, because we know this time might not work for everybody next week, or you need to review it again. So we will, record it and make it available.
And if for some reason you're on this meeting and we're not on the email list that this meeting was sent to, please just reach out to the community grants email and we can get you that meeting invite sent out to you.
Okay, so I am going to just leave. There's one more question there. Thanks so much. There is just one last slide. So, let me see. Last slide. So, as we depart, if you have any questions regarding e-grants, you can reach out directly to the email address at the top. And if you need to reach us with any questions, feel free to write the second email at the bottom. Quite a bit of information here. Thank you all for joining. We sincerely are looking forward to working with you, and we want to do the best we can to help you and make this as easy as possible. So by all means, we welcome your feedback and ideas. So thank you all so much.